Scope.
Welcome to this edition of WeatherScope. Declan Cannon alongside Jill Brown. Jill, big area high pressure in the west, but we had some very strong Santa Ana winds in Southern California today.
Right, you usually think of high pressure as good news, great weather, but this time of year, of course, that can mean some real windy conditions, which Declan will tell you about in a minute. In the meantime, we'll talk snow in the east, a little bit of snow. Let me show you what's going on in the northeast. We'll start with the satellite picture, and you can see here our area of low pressure is moving out and moving out fast. It's way out over the open waters. There you go. See the spin just about off the screen now. That's our area of low pressure that produced the snow that came down sort of fast and furious here in New Jersey and parts of Pennsylvania and New York last night. The maximum we saw of that was 8 inches, which, you know, is enough to cause you a few problems, but not a real big snowstorm. Now we have a lot of cloud cover left. That's because we have a secondary low, a weak low that's kind of hanging out, and as that heads east, well, it looks like your sun will be replaced with some clouds, and we'll see another quick round, a little bit of snow, a little bit of rain. I wanted to show you a couple of radars, and you'll notice that it looks bad here, but it's really light snow. Be aware that there could be a couple of slick spots here and there between Cleveland and Buffalo. That's where we've seen light snow and even occasionally a little bit of drizzle. And I popped the Chicago in and then noticed, well, no one's reporting snow anymore. Looks like we might have a few flakes, but no, that won't be a problem either. So here's how it looks on our surface map. And yeah, it looks like some of those suburbs on the south side of Chicago are probably getting a little bit of snow. And then from Cleveland to Youngstown and over toward Pittsburgh and Morristown, New Jersey, you're probably seeing a few flakes as well. And here's the bigger picture. So again, just a little bit of snow here and there, not enough to accumulate, not enough to cause any problems, or at least any big problems on the roads. Temperatures are really right at, and in some places slightly above freezing. Boston 34, but it feels like 29. It's not terribly windy here, but a little bit of a breeze can make it feel pretty cold, like in Bangor. 14 degrees with the wind chill. Down to the south, I hope you enjoyed yesterday. Sunny skies, temperatures were getting up into the 60s. It's nice again in Charleston, 65. Jacksonville's not bad. Tampa, 71. Miami with temperature like that, you know, you're going to get busier over the next couple of months as people start streaming south with this kind of cold weather way down to Birmingham and Atlanta. Look at the wind chill. It was like 31 in Atlanta. I think that sounds bad. Check out Oklahoma City, wind chill of 8 degrees. North winds are blowing, so that's going to keep that cold air in for a couple of days. We have a little bit of rain, but we don't have snow and we don't have ice, and good news is we're not expecting it. So this is the worst of it. We've seen kind of waves of rain here. Earlier it was one big streamer, then it kind of broke, part heading east. Orlando, you should be seeing things quiet down for a while, but watch what's to your west because it looks like that rain's traveling down Interstate 4 yet again, and thunder showers around Tampa Bay could eventually return to Orlando. The latest lightning data, however, shows that most of the thunderstorms are exiting stage right. We'll be watching stage left for a return to thunderstorms and potentially some severe weather. We have a little bit of red on the map, so we'll watch for that this afternoon. Declan?
Well, Jill, the big story in Southern California today, some of the strong Santa Ana winds, gusts already over 70 miles an hour in some parts of the Southland. And in the plains, a little bit of lingering snow. In fact, around Tulsa, the snow was floating about literally this morning. Just some light snow, some flurries. Visibility is about 5 to 10 miles. And, well, it looks like we'll have perhaps another hour or so, and then things will start to shut down a bit as the upper disturbance, which is actually helping in this snow production, is going to slip off to our south and east. But we still have the snow as far west as the Texas Panhandle, and you can take it right into the plains into Mexico. So here's this big upper disturbance just sliding southeastward, and a huge area of high pressure. Underneath that high, very chilly readings this morning with the clear skies in some of the valleys here in northwest Wyoming. Temperatures bottoming out between 20 and 25 below zero. And then you can see the fog stretched out as you head into the west. Very typical with a big area of high pressure loft. We'll get valley fog that will lift during the late morning into the afternoon, and we'll tend to get some low clouds, although in some cases the fog may tend to persist for a good part of the day. Now, unfortunately, we think attributed to some of the dense fog in Sacramento County this morning. We did have a report of a major traffic pileup on Interstate 5 due to the bad weather. We go to Southern California, and in some of the canyons, we're getting some very strong winds. The high pressure sitting over the interior with all that atmospheric pressure here, and then much lower pressure compared to the high anyway, much lower pressure off the coast. We're getting that shot of airflow down towards the coastal communities in central and southern California. And where the air actually gets forced through some of these narrow canyons, we tend to see a big increase in the velocity or the speed of the air, and we get these strong wind gusts. And that's been the case today throughout many of the canyons, Ventura, Los Angeles, Orange counties, heading down even to San Diego County. And you can even still, at this hour, pick out that low cloud layer as you head east of the Carquinez straight towards the Capital District and then heading down the San Joaquin Valley. Still some low clouds. And more clouds east of the Cascades in Washington and Oregon. Look at the temperatures here. 33 at Spokane, 31 at Boise, and we have 40s as we head towards the Pacific Northwest. Huge storm out there, well west of us, pumping a lot of warm air up into the western part of the country. And with that warm air continuing to pile up in the atmosphere, it looks like our little buddy, the high pressure, is here to stay for a while, right, Jill?
That's right. Let's take a look at our little buddy out here in the west. There it is. With high pressure, again, the winds will stay strong in the southwest, but even though it's not depicted on this map, we are likely to have more problems with fog in some of the valleys because of stagnant air, the sort of calm created by high pressure here. So keep that in mind if you're going to be traveling. It can be patchy, like it was today. You're driving along clear skies, next thing you know, you have very dense fog, and that's when you run into problems. Winds will continue tomorrow, not only actually in the southwest, but we're going to have a pretty stiff north wind here, and that's going to keep transporting that cooler air down south. Now, fortunately, we think that while we'll have some precipitation, we won't have it far enough to the north to cause problems, because if we get a little bit farther north, we could end up with a little sleet or freezing rain. That air is pretty chilly, but at this point it looks like showers, rain showers. Snow showers in the northeast briefly. Snow really not a big deal for the next several days to come. So not setting up for a white Christmas in too many places. Temperatures, on the other hand, definitely cold enough for snow. So if your favorite ski resort isn't getting any of the natural stuff, not to worry, they'll be making it like crazy.
Alrighty, well, stay tuned. We still have the threat of additional heavy rain and perhaps some flooding in central Florida the next couple of days.
We will check it out on TravelWise coming up next.
We're monitoring a very volatile weather.
The Weather Channel's team of meteorologists are working right now, tracking weather that may affect you and those you care about. Stay informed. Check in with us throughout the day, every day. This is your local forecast. Weather information you can plan on, only on the Weather Channel.
All right, we're talking about the weather for the next 5 days. You're getting a full scoop this go around. And actually, it looks pretty good over the next few days. So you have plans. You got to get out to the mall, do a little shopping, get the Christmas tree, maybe travel cross country to see some relatives. Just minor nuisances, more so than things that would stop you. So in Florida, it's rained today, and it's starting to stretch a little farther north, which is a problem. Snow is light enough around Cleveland to Pittsburgh and back to St. Louis, and looks like it's disappeared completely around Tulsa. That we don't think that, even though there's a fair amount on the map, that you should avoid any specific areas. It's just fairly light, so not a real big deal. Actually, some of the worst weather is with the winds in Southern California, then the fog that caused a major accident on Interstate 5 in Central California. Be aware that that fog is going to be persistent today, and while we don't have it on the map for tomorrow, chances are it will be back. It's going to be tough to pinpoint exactly who gets it until it happens, but we'll let you know on our current map who has the fog. So if you're traveling, you can, avoid it if you can, or else just be prepared to kind of slow things down, because visibility can go down in a real hurry. So there it is, big dome of high pressure here. A lot of isobars around this one, and as you probably know, that's going to mean strong winds. North winds here, and that's going to keep that cool air coming farther and farther south. So it is chilly, and it's going to stay chilly down into Texas, down in the southeast. That rain is really trying to stretch up to the point where it'll get into the cold air, but we think that at this point it's going to be rain. Just rain. No sleet, no freezing rain, no snow. We won't have any of that here in the south, but a chilly rain. In the northeast, a few more flakes flying here, but boy, I tell you, tomorrow afternoon's map looks good just about everywhere. I know in Florida you're probably disagreeing with that because you have the rough weather today. In Orlando, it's been raining quite a bit. In Tampa, actually, we've had enough rain now in the area that the Hillsborough River is rising and may crest tomorrow or into Saturday, a little bit above flood stage. So some problems at the Hillsborough River State Park. Be aware of that. Just a little bit of flooding problems. But those roads on Interstate 4, on 75, there's probably going to be some ponding. This has been a pretty steady and heavy rain. We do not have any snow in the forecast that will accumulate. How about that? So we don't show you that today. Lows overnight tonight as cold as 10 below, and it's going to be cold once again down to Texas, down to the southeast. Temperatures will be in the 30s, and if you live here, those nights where it's really cold are pretty rare. So maybe you've had the cat or the dog inside the last couple of nights. Give it another night or so, and then we have a pretty significant warm-up. We'll talk about that in a moment. So there are your highs through Friday. Southwest, not too bad. We'll have a few 70s here and there, especially with the Santa Ana winds continuing. South Florida, the 80s again. That's a good reason to head there. It does cool off a little bit over the weekend. That front's going to eventually slide a little farther south and let some of that cool air in. It's kind of like someone left the door open, and the breeze has definitely been blowing. But by the time we hit the end of the weekend, temperatures are on the rise. Into the first part of next week, real nice downsloping winds should be terrific weather, really Sunday and Monday for you here in Denver, out through Goodland. Little Rock, chilly today. Of course, we have a little snow through Oklahoma where it'll be in the 60s by Monday. And then we have a nice little sweep, a quick round of warm air across the southeast. So just a little breather from winter. By Saturday, of course, we have snow showers crossing the Great Lakes. So you may have a little snow Green Bay, Detroit on Saturday, but it's likely to be gone by Sunday. Then Cleveland, Pittsburgh will have some snow, and it'll be breezy and chilly into Manhattan, which means if you're going to be Christmas shopping downtown Manhattan, the wind may be howling through those buildings. Take some warm clothes with you. In the west, the rain returns. After several days of dry weather, by Sunday into Monday, it looks like that high will head off to the east, and the rain will be allowed back in, especially northwest. But really, no big storms coming up through Tuesday. So again, today's big weather factors, the chill in the air, no doubt about that. Wind chills in the single digits all the way down to 0 in Texas, and just a little bit of light snow. Declan?
Coming up on Weather Scope more. Well, the cold air is here to stay for, well, the first part of the weekend anyway. Good afternoon. I'm Declan Cannon.
And I'm Joel Brown. That's something that, of course, has everybody concerned. If we have cold air, we've got a little more rain this afternoon. When do we get the snow? Well, we'll check it out. We'll look at it in just a moment. Let's start you down south, where it actually has been pretty warm, but a little foggy. We ended up seeing just a little bit of fog this morning in Miami. Some pretty neat-looking pictures there. You could barely see the sun through the fog. Haze was hanging over the city, made for a slow morning commute. A little slower for some folks, but looks like, there you go. You can barely see those palm trees and the planes coming in. Looks a little bit better in Miami this afternoon. They actually had a
place on Earth has better weather.
And we thank you so much for joining us on the Weather Channel. You've tuned in just in time for the Winter Weather Update, which is sponsored by Prestone. Driveway heat melts up to 4 times more ice than rock salt. Okay, as we detail the cold air, we'll of course have to start with the temperatures because it represents the coldness of the air or the heat content of the air. We don't have much to speak of here. The central Rockies and the northern plains with temperatures in the teens, single digits, all the way to Denver, 15 degrees this hour. Salt Lake City are checking in with only 13, so quite cold as we wake up on this TGIF, even in the teens over the panhandle of Texas. Look at Amarillo, 10 degrees this hour, 30 in Oklahoma City, 37 around Little Rock, Arkansas. We wake up to 36 Atlanta, and generally sub-freezing temperatures from Detroit to Rochester, even Pittsburgh. We've had reports of some light snow in Pittsburgh this morning. Light rain and snow mixed at the John F. Kennedy Airport. LaGuardia reporting all light snow, though. No heavy accumulations expected. Temperatures, again, hovering right around the freezing mark. Here's a look at the wind chills now. When you factor in the winds, it really makes a big difference. Even the slightest breeze can make 15 degrees feel like 16 below in Denver, 5 below in Omaha. That's the current wind chill. It feels like 2 below at International Falls. So definitely a lot of cold air in place right here, the northern Rockies and the northern plains. That's because we have just an overwhelming ridge of high pressure, and with fair skies here, we've had a lot of radiational cooling overnight, and that means all of the solar radiation that we had yesterday afternoon without the presence of clouds was able to escape back out of the atmosphere, back into space, and we're left this morning with, again, the cold air in place. So this high pressure has been dominating the western half of the country at least for the last 48 hours, and it's going to take another 24 to 36 hours before we start to break this high pressure down. It has been exerting a major force against the Earth's surface, about 1048 millibars, so a very strong high pressure system here. Offshore winds have been quite blustery too. Laguna Beach yesterday in Southern California, a wind gust up to 52 miles an hour. So on the backside of the bottom half here of this high pressure with the offshore winds, it has been very, very blustery. Unfortunately, though, beneath the high, where we don't have such a strong pressure gradient, if you will, and the wind flow, it has been very stagnant, and the air pretty much just staying in place, and warm air aloft, and that's creating an inversion. And we've had a lot of thick fog trapped in the valleys out west, the Sacramento Valley, the Yakima River Valley here in eastern Washington State, and the fog has really presented problems, reduced visibilities in many areas. We've had reports of numerous car accidents, actually, in the Sacramento Valley because of the sharply reduced visibilities going into the valley. So please be extra careful if you are venturing out today the valleys out west, because that fog has really made for treacherous driving conditions. Talk about treacherous driving conditions. If you have travel plans along Interstate 95 here from the mid-Atlantic southward toward Interstate 10, the Gulf Coast, the Panhandle of Florida, we have wet weather. All of this is rain, and it's been persistent and moderately heavy in some areas like around Macon, Georgia, down to Columbus, so you want to be careful. This is not touching the ground. This is just basically virga, which is moisture that's found in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, but not yet saturating toward the lower levels. And we have widespread snow over parts of the Northeast. Stay with us on WeatherScope. We'll let you know about the snowfall forecasts in this area coming up next.
It's out there, waiting on your steps, your sidewalk, your driveway. It laughs at rock salt. It's ice. It fears only heat. Driveway heat from Prestone. Each concentrated pellet heats up like a furnace to melt up to 4 times more ice than rock salt with no messy residue. Put your driveway in the Prestone zone with driveway heat and kiss your ice goodbye.
Prestone Driveway Heat Concentrated Ice Melter melts up to 4 times more. The Weather Channel. Well, we've had some flooding problems, even around the Pittsburgh area, some localized flooding. All these storms are moving southward at about 20 miles per hour, but they're really putting down a lot of rain in that fairly short period of time. So if you live around, say, around Scioto County in southern Ohio, you want to be aware of that. We've already had reports of some flooding problems there. And we head on into Michigan. Here's where we'll find the potential for some severe weather. Severe thunderstorm watch remains in effect. This is why a line of thunderstorms are now moving just north of the Saginaw area and poised to move back out over the lake. Also some stronger rumblers racing across north central Wisconsin and out into Lake Michigan. And we head out westward, and this is where we find a few scattered showers, a few scattered thunderstorms as we work our way into the southwest.
People choose to live in flood-prone areas for various reasons, but oftentimes many wonder, is it worth it? Here's the Weather Channel's Vivian Brown with Part 5 of Raging Waters.
The Weather Channel.
And so as we head on in through the morning hours and afternoon hours for our Saturday, we're expecting to see a few scattered thunderstorms popping along the Gulf Coast, but it's really in the vicinity of the front that we will probably find the most numerous showers and storms, even into the southwest, some of the monsoonal moisture kicking in again, and that may spell out a few localized areas picking up maybe a half inch. But with the persistent storms that I showed you earlier around the eastern Ohio Valley that are moving on southward, they are capable of producing maybe 3-4 inches of rain, and that same storm track coming into play tomorrow, so we'll have to watch for some localized flooding in some spots. Highs on Saturday, whoa, it's going to be another hot one from southern New England all the way back into the southwest. Only the northern tier and northwest will escape the extreme heat. And if you're wondering where it's going to be hot this weekend, 95 degrees plus like in Kansas City, St. Louis, even around Philly, and up to 100 degrees around Charlotte, Memphis, Dallas, and Oklahoma City. So there is definitely going to be some hot weather to deal with as we head through Sunday and even on into Monday. Look at the 100s again, stretching on into the mid-Atlantic. 60s on into the Arrowhead of Minnesota by Monday. And upstate New York not looking too bad. You'll find some 80s there, but New York City flirting with that 90-degree mark. Sunday's weather showing a few scattered showers and storms heading into the upper Midwest, the northern plains. Just some isolated stuff elsewhere. Heading into southeastern Texas and on up through the middle of the nation. You may see a better chance for some rain as we work our way right on into Monday. So some active weather out there, but definitely another hot weekend. So take precautions.
Definitely, but maybe fall's not too far behind with that cooler weather for some parts.
We can only hope.
All right, coming up next, we'll be checking out your local forecast and then a trip of Florida. Stay with us.
Who needs another Raisin Bran? I mean, I'm fine with Kellogg's. What could be so different about Total Raisin Bran?
They're not friends. They're not even the girls' team. They're a pack of wolves. Tend to your ship.
Fall is going to be very noticeable virtually across the entire country. So that's probably good news if you're planning on golfing or going out toward the area lakes. The only exception will be here in the northwest, where unfortunately the clouds have been really persistent today and will continue tomorrow as well. So you won't need the sunscreen. I guess that's the good news. Around the rest of the country, the sunscreen is going to be a really good thing. And I'll tell you what, a lot of heat and humidity here in the southern plains, folks. So bear that in mind. Houston, Dallas, Oklahoma City, Little Rock, if you're going to be outdoors, it's going to be probably a bit stressful on the body. Now, we've got pretty gusty conditions across the Great Lakes and New England with a front that's kind of lingering in this area, but the winds lessen up around the Chesapeake Bay all the way down through Florida, and even the southern tip of Texas finally seeing the winds beginning to die down somewhat, and the west coast seeing something of a 15 to 25 mile an hour wind range here generally, so not too bad. Pretty nice day to be outdoors overall. Now, if you're traveling, for the most part, conditions aren't too bad, but there's a lot of slippery roads out there. We'll be checking that in the 5-day outlook next.
As high pressure pushes east, heat builds back into the south and the east. We have the 5-day temperature.
Thunderstorms along it. Gabrielle is finally working its way onto on the shore there of Mexico, working its way inland. It will not strengthen anymore. As soon as it gets away from the open water, a tropical system has no chance of strengthening, and it no longer has those warm Gulf waters to feed on, so it will weaken slowly as it works on in, but it's also going to bring in a tremendous amount of moisture, portions of extreme southern Texas, on down into Mexico. Here are the strong thunderstorms and the ones producing the heavy and even flooding rains working down into West Virginia, around the Columbus area. Again, some problems
problems now around Pickaway County, so we've been watching that very, very closely. Many of those counties around east central and south central Ohio have had some problems, at least with some flooding and even some strong storms producing gusty winds this afternoon. Again, there's your sliver of a watch area, and this is why. Now we'll show you the thunderstorms moving on out. Look more impressive across the western sections of Michigan there, and as they moved on eastward, crossed over I-75 and then out into the lake, well, they appear to be losing their punch, but still probably some pretty gusty winds and possibility for some brief heavy downpours that may reduce visibilities out there on the road. So you want to be careful. Showers, thunderstorms all the way back down into the southwest. This is what it looks like around Albuquerque all the way back out to Tucson. Remember, around Pima County, we do have severe thunderstorm warning in effect. We'll be watching that area closely. And then as we work our way out to the big picture, we'll find, oh, the rain isn't the only story. As usual, hey, it's August after all. We expect some heat, but this is getting ridiculous. The temperatures still very warm in the west, about where they should be in Phoenix after we've been counting the number of days of 110 plus readings, and you finally reached up to 17, 1 day shy of the record of 18. You're not going to make it up there today, but this is one of the latest times we have ever seen that warm a stretch of temperatures around the Phoenix area. Rest of the nation looking very warm, all the way up into the central and even the northern plain states, on into western South Dakota, 90s, but in the northeast, generally fairly comfortable scenario. Let's go on into Saturday morning and take you into the next 5 days. Again, the focus zone right along this front. If you live, say, in Green Bay, in Detroit, or even around Pittsburgh, be aware some showers may be in your forecast for tomorrow. They'll be scattered, but there will at least be the chance for that. 60s can be expected tomorrow morning across much of the northeast, but here come the 90s again. New York City, be prepared. Same for you in Worcester and Boston. 100s across central portions of the U.S. as we head from central Kansas down toward Oklahoma City. But cool and comfy here from the northwest, stretching all the way out toward the upper Midwest. Those regions actually have some of the nicest weather for the weekend, at least as far as temperatures are concerned. Still a lot of heat in the southwest, a lot of heat here in the east. Some of those 100s stretching on eastward, possibility even around Atlanta. We could see a 100 or near 100 degree readings for the course of the weekend. Heading into Monday, still a lot of warmth in the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, and Tuesday's weather looking equally as warm. There's that trough again. It looks like we may have a ridge developing a little bit stronger out in the west, so a warm up here. In response to that, a trough digging somewhat across the Great Lakes in the northeast. So a cooling trend for you in Chicago and Detroit, Toledo, as we head on into Wednesday, but especially the upper lakes feeling the effect of that trough. Heading on into Sunday, well, isolated thunderstorms a possibility. Areas of light green, a better chance you'll find some rain. Some of these areas in dark green, including around south central Texas, or I should say southeastern Texas. Showers and storms stretching all the way from the Dallas area through St. Louis on up toward the Windy City on Monday. And then generally just looking at a few scattered showers and thunderstorms in the northeast, portions of the deep south. Another system moving into the west on Wednesday may mean some more rain around Seattle and Portland. When we come back, we're going to take another close-up look at some of the radars, featuring some stronger storms in the southwest and some flooding rains in the east.
The Travel Channel takes you to the most sophisticated places on Earth, as well as those that are quite charmingly savage. For an insider's view of the world's most adventurous destinations, tune into the Travel Channel. It's the only place to get travel ideas on everything from day trips to dream vacations. To get the Travel Channel, call your cable operator today. And take a vacation from being civilized.
Country, as far as the rain action is concerned, we've got plenty of it. Southwest getting pummeled this afternoon with some thunderstorms. Also parts of the Great Lakes and Mid-Atlantic region getting hit hard. So is South Texas with all that moisture from Gabriel. Let's check in on the Southwest first, though. We take you into Arizona and New Mexico, where Tucson, some very heavy rains for you. In fact, any of these areas that are seeing the heavier rains, you really have to be on the lookout for some brief localized flooding. And most of this action is tending to move off toward the north and northwest very slowly. You can see some of these showers here kind of drifting eastward. They're kind of going every which way, but a lot of activity on all the way up and toward Colorado. Now, so far, Denver, for the most part, things have been kind of on the dry side around you, but the showers and thunderstorms have been to your east and south along Interstate 75? 25. That's what it is, 25. This is all heading off toward the east. And around the Great Lakes, we've had some severe thunderstorms, but this is beginning to die down. Sharon will be along next to check out the severe action and some of those floodings coming up in a moment.
We have 3 tropical systems to watch: Flossie in the Pacific, Gabrielle in the Gulf of Mexico, and Hurricane Felix in the Atlantic. Stay tuned. All this and more next.
Any air freshener can freshen a small room. But what about a large room? Plug it in, plug it in. Introducing Glade plug-ins for large rooms. The first air freshener specially designed for your largest rooms. Because it gently warms not one, but 2 cartridges for large room
Some very hot weather, and we also have thunderstorms. So a lot to talk about, and all of that really affecting the lower 48 in some shape or form. We'll talk first about some of the rain, showers and storms moving across the upper Midwest, stretching along this frontal zone. A few scattered showers also once they move across the Great Lakes, dip on southward. We've had some locally heavy rains around the Pittsburgh area. Flooding problems also reported as we head on into parts of Ohio, around Pickaway County. That's the latest flood warning that we've had so far, and we continue to see some scattered action in the southeast. What catches your eye down here? Well, that is Gabrielle, which is finally making landfall. Now, it will no longer strengthen now that it's over land, but it will bring in a tremendous amount of moisture, and we're seeing some squalls moving on into southern Texas, and we're going to be watching that very closely. Showers and thunderstorms, a tremendous amount of rain, and no doubt we'll be talking about some flooding problems there in Mexico. I wonder if we'll find any news about that before the night is through, because this is bringing in just a torrential amount of rain, and it will continue to do so as it slowly moves its way on inland. It's not even completely inland just yet. In the northwest, things are quieting down. That's some nice news. They're also cooling down, and that will be one of the more comfortable spots for the weekend. We'll highlight the temperatures too. I want to start off first with some of the flooding rain stretching from south central Ohio back down around Pickaway County, earlier Scioto County earlier today, seeing some flooding problems, and even as we head from the Pittsburgh area, you can see where the thunderstorms moved on through that region and now press southward into West Virginia. Again, many of those areas picking up a quick 3 to 4 inches of rain, and it's really tough for the ground to absorb that much moisture in a short period of time. So the end result, flooded streets and flooded backyards, and sometimes even flooded basements, and that is no fun. As we check things out a little bit further off to the north, we'll find that we do still have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. Good news here as we take a look at the radar is that the line of storms really looked impressive across northwestern lower Michigan, but as it advanced on eastward, did you see that? The line of yellow kind of weakening. There's still some pretty good wind with those storms, I would bet, as they move across the lake, but for the most part, seeing some of those winding down, so that's some good news. Heavier rains as we head on up toward the Door County area of Wisconsin. We head westward, we'll find some showers and some thunderstorms extending from, say, around Albuquerque all the way back down toward Tucson and northeastern Pima County. That appears to be the problem area now, with some very strong thunderstorms right around the Tucson area, producing some gusty winds and some torrential downpours, so do keep that in mind. Temperature-wise across the nation, we're talking about a lot of heat. Well, look at this, all the way up into the middle of the nation, some 90s, and in the desert southwest, hot, but not as hot. As a matter of fact, 105 right now in Phoenix. Never did make it to 110. We've been counting the number of days Phoenix reached to 110 degrees or warmer, and we've had 17 consecutive days. Well, the record is 18, so we're not going to make the record, but this in a sense is a record in itself, because it's actually the latest that we've ever had this type of heat wave in the Phoenix area. Last time I believe it was, yeah, there you see it in June, a little earlier in the summer, so kind of late to see that much heat around the Phoenix area, but I think folks might actually feel a little bit better that temperatures today at least 5 degrees cooler than what you've had for the past 17 days. Let's check out your forecast now, and we'll show you what's happening as we work our way on out. Well, I think we're going to check the forecast. Let's see if I can find it for you. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going to happen as we head on into the weekend, and I'll tell you something, it's looking more and more like it is going to be a hot one, and probably like we're going to find some more rain around some of the same areas that are seeing that weather right now. So we'll check things out here, and we'll find that on Saturday morning on into the afternoon hours, well, we're still talking about the potential for some showers and storms right around that frontal system. High pressure in the southeast, fairly dry it looks like. However, as you get just on the periphery of that high, you will find some uplift, rising air, and that will produce some clouds, and in that murky atmosphere, the potential for some showers. There's our tropical system as it moves on inland. Of course, it weakens, but still produces a tremendous amount of moisture. Locally, 4 inches or more a possibility as we head through Saturday evening. Some of those spots across eastern Ohio on into western Pennsylvania, and still a muggy night for really much of the nation as we work our way right on through. It's just going to be kind of a sticky night, and not the best of days for tomorrow, as we'll see high temperatures reaching into 90s over much of the country. So looking like it's going to be kind of a, well, warm and rather wild weekend. Let's check things out now as we take a look at your good evening forecast, and we'll show you what happens on into tomorrow or on into Sunday. A lot of warmth, as I mentioned, with readings in the 100s stretching on into the mid-Atlantic states. We're going to find that is true also on into Monday. But you see what's happening there in the Central Plains. Here comes your cool down by early next week as the front sweeps on through and brings in some cooler airs to 70s around the Twin Cities for Monday. Hey, that's nice. 80s expected as you head down into the Central Plains states. Back to normal for you. Sunday's weather, showers and thunderstorms in the upper Midwest. Few scattered showers and storms remaining here southeastern Texas, so still winding in some of that moisture. And then by Monday, that system sweeps across the Great Lakes. So just as you're heading back to work in Milwaukee, in Chicago, in Detroit, you got some more showers to worry about in your morning commute. Same is true all the way back down toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So getting kind of wet as we head through the Great Lakes region for the weekend. The majority of the weekend, scattered showers, and definitely a warm scenario for probably 2/3 of the country. When we come back, we're going to take another close-up look at the hot weather.
How far do you have to go for great